Hi, everyone. Paige Panzarello here, the Cash Flow Chick. And, I've gotten a lot of people that have both approached me for education, but also approached me to buy their notes. And while I love that, I've had to educate some of them on the nuances of note investing and where we should be in terms of our price point. And there's a big misnomer out there, a big myth, if you will. And it's not just with individual sellers. I will tell you, this is also with banks and hedge funds. And I've had to educate some of the asset managers as well, because a lot of people focus on there's so much equity in the house, meaning that the borrower only owes X amount of dollars, but the house is actually valued at so much more. And a lot of times, uneducated note investors will make the very large mistake of buying a note and overpaying for the note because they see that big giant bubble of equity in the property. The problem with that is this: you're only owed as much as you're owed. And what I mean by that is if you're owed $100,000, so if the total legal collectible balance for that note is $100,000, you will not, unless you take actual possession of the property through probably a deed in lieu of foreclosure, depending upon how much equity there is, right? But unless you actually control the property, it's not going to be you who realizes the equity. And what I mean by that is this: unless you can get the borrower to agree to a deed in lieu of foreclosure, meaning he or she will sign the deed of the house over to you as payment in full for the loan, okay? That's called a deed in lieu of foreclosure. You'll see the acronym DIL, right? Deed in lieu of foreclosure. That's one of the many different exit strategies that we have in note investing. The problem with that is, unless you can get the borrower to agree to do that, you're going to have to exit this note some other way. And what I mean by that is you're either going to have to agree to a short sale, which means you allow that the borrower to sell the property and pay you less money than is owed, and they get to keep the equity if there is some, if you're okay with that, or you have to take this property to foreclosure auction. Now, foreclosure is my least favorite exit strategy, and I'm going to bring this back around to the equity in just a moment. Foreclosure is my least favorite exit strategy, and we use this exit strategy. We'll end up in this situation about a third of the time. Okay, a third of the time we get to work with our borrowers and keep them in their home. A third of the time we end up in either a short sale situation or a deed in lieu situation. And a third of the time we end up in foreclosure. Now, foreclosure, we as the bank are the ones to set the minimum bid on the foreclosure, okay? And we only get that one bid. It's called a credit bid. So when we get that one bid, that's it. We can't bid up if other people go to the foreclosure auction and are bidding against us. Now, like I said, foreclosure is always an auction, and we only get that opening bid. A lot of people don't realize that we're only owed as much as we're owed. So let's say that the property is valued at $250,000, okay? You are owed a legal collectible balance of $100,000. If you have to go to a foreclosure auction, you can set your opening bid at the full amount of the legal collectible balance. So you can set your opening bid at $100,000. If that property is truly worth $250,000 as it sits, or even higher in like a fix and flip situation, if the ARV after repair value is significantly higher, very likely it is going to sell to somebody else at that foreclosure auction. You're going to get your 100,000, yes, but they are the ones that are going to realize that $150,000 worth of equity in the home. And when you're a note investor and you see that $150,000 of sitting equity, oftentimes you're willing to pay more for the note. But let me caution you, equity does not matter unless you take possession of the house. Okay. Now, you cannot set your opening bid at a foreclosure auction for more money than is owed to you. If you're only owed $100,000, you can only set that opening bid at $100,000. If it sells to somebody else for $100,001, you get the 100,000 and the borrower gets the dollar. Okay. You are only owed as much as you are owed. So if you've paid $85,000 or $90,000 for this note because you think that you're going to capture that $150,000 worth of equity, you are now going to be underwater yourself. You are going to lose money. Here's why. Because much like fixing and flipping a property, we also have rehab or workout costs, I like to call them, in notes. So if you paid $90,000 for the actual note, then you incorporate all of your other expenses, your forced place insurance, your loss mitigation team, the foreclosure costs, all that stuff. Very likely you are now going to be at or above the $100,000 that is owed to you. So you're going to take a loss. Now, in the rare event that goes to foreclosure auction, you set the opening bid at $100,000 and it doesn't sell to somebody. Now you get the house back as payment in full for your loan, and you will capture that equity, that $150,000 in equity. But a lot of note investors overpay for the note because they see so much equity in the property. And I'm here to tell you that the equity does not matter to you unless you take possession of the property itself. So buyer beware. When an asset manager or an individual note investor is trying to sell you a note and the price is too high, but they're telling you, well, there's so much equity in the house, you go back to them and say, I'm only owed as much as I'm owed. So you are then going to want to base your price not on the equity and the value of the home, but somewhere around what the unpaid principal balance of that loan is. So if the legal collectible balance is $100,000, you would price your note, let's say of that legal collectible balance, only $75,000 is principal. So now you're going to base your discounted purchase price. You're going to make an offer on the $75,000 at a discount, right? It might be a higher discount because there's some equity there, but meaning you're not going to get it at 50% of UPB, unpaid principal balance. You might pay 60 or 65% of that unpaid principal balance, maybe a little more depending upon the asset, right? But don't overpay for a note because of the illusion of the equity. You cannot capture that equity unless you take possession of the house. Okay, so I wanted to get that out there because so many people have contacted me, especially lately, that they've got this great note for sale. They're only owed X amount of dollars, but the house is worth so much more. And my comment to them is, but I'm only owed as much as I'm owed. And if I have to take it to foreclosure auction, then very likely it's going to sell to somebody else. If there's truly that much equity in it, then it's going to sell to somebody else. And I don't get to capture that equity. So buyer beware, everybody. I really wanted to put that out there. I've saved several note investors that I've kind of counseled them that have come to me about that. And they didn't make purchases because of that. I've literally had people say to me, oh my gosh, this note has $200,000 worth of equity and I can pick it up for $36,000. And I will ask them, what's your legal collectible balance? And they'll tell me the legal collectible balance is $40,000. Well, you're only owed $40,000. not $40,000 and one, not $40,001, not $40,025, not $42,000. You're only owed $40,000. That's it, not a penny more. So be careful when you're dealing with new sellers, and when you don't be shocked and lured by the equity in the securing collateral, because it's just that. It's securing collateral until you take possession of the property. And there's no guarantee that you're going to do that. So I wanted to put that out to you today. If you liked that information, please go ahead and like my Facebook page, Cashflow Chick. Go to YouTube. I have tons more videos there as well. I have a workshop coming up. So go ahead and go to buildingwealthwithnotes.com. That's buildingwealthwithnotes.com. And I will teach you how to do everything you need to know to become a note investor in this incredible medium. But there are some pitfalls like I just talked about. So again, don't be lured by the promise of equity, because until you take possession of the house, you're not going to capture that equity. Somebody else is. All right. I'd love for you to join us for a workshop. I'd love to train you how you can secure your wealth and build your wealth while you are helping people to stay in their homes. And, this can go on for generations. So reach out to me. I'd love to answer any questions. Come and join me for a workshop, and be sure to like my Cashflow Chick Facebook page, LinkedIn profile, Instagram, and also YouTube. All right, everybody. See you next time. Bye.